Hello, my name is Dr. Manus, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to conduct a case analysis. This could be useful for MBA students taking a class that requires case analysis, or it could be useful for undergraduate students in an upper level marketing strategy course. So let's go ahead and jump in to understanding how we can conduct a case analysis and why case analyses are important for these types of classes. So, in general, whenever we think about practitioners, managers, they have to analyze and conduct analysis to be able to implement and develop marketing strategy in particular and strategy in general. So there's two areas in which most managers are going to be analyzing. One is going to be the internal environment. So these are things that the company can control and are within the company's purview and are internal to the company. Okay, so this could be like a company's hiring practices, a company's training practices, onboarding. It could be the morale of employees within the company. It could be their sales processes, their marketing efforts, anything that the company has control over are going to be or what a manager might analyze as part of the internal environment. We also, as managers, we might also be interested in analyzing the external environment. So the external environment and analyzing the external environment entails anything that the company does not have control over or has very little control over. So examples of this might include like government regulation, trends in the consumer trends that are happening in the market. It could also be improvements or innovation in technology, what our competitors are doing. We have zero control over what those different aspects, as well as others, happening in the external environment. However, we still, as managers, want to know what's happening so that we can pivot and adjust our company's strategy accordingly. Okay? So those are two areas in which managers have to analyze and do analyze as part of developing and implementing their marketing strategy. So because of this, the case method offers us as students and as instructors an opportunity to provide an experiential learning opportunity for students. Okay, so as experiential learning might entail, the case method helps us learn from past experiences and experiences of others. So companies, right? We can look in the past, we can learn from history, we can learn from their mistakes, we can learn from their successes, right? So the case method offers us an opportunity to learn from these companies' past experiences. And the case method is only effective when done well. So those who develop cases, as well as those who analyze cases, must put their best foot forward to be able to get the most out of that learning experience. And the case method isn't the only way to have experiential or active learning in an MBA class or an upper level marketing strategy course, right? There's simulations that students and instructors could use to learn and understand about companies. However, the case method is one of the most tried and true ways for students to learn from past experiences and to have an active learning experience in these classes. So there's some advantages to the case method. One is that obviously I've mentioned that it's experience based. However, it's reality anchored. Okay. So it's anchored in reality in the sense that all of these cases are real world experiences from companies. They're not made up scenarios. They are real and fact based. If we're looking at a simulation, for example, that's not going to necessarily be based in reality because it's a simulation. It's made up. It's something that a computer program, they're able to go through that simulation process, but it's not an actual real world experience that a company has had in the past. Okay, and students are at the center of the learning. It's not the instructor, it's the student that's at the center of the learning because you get out of it what you put into it. And oftentimes the learning that students get out of it is very powerful. It's personal and intimate because students oftentimes have several light bulb moments as they go through the class and as they analyze cases throughout the semester. So there are some disadvantages to the case method. One is that there's no right answers. This is probably the biggest struggle among students whenever I teach both the MBA class as well as upper level strategy courses in the undergraduate program, because students want to have a quote unquote right answer. Well, most oftentimes in life, right, as well as whenever we're thinking about companies, there is no right answer. We're taking a gamble, an educated gamble, that one direction, one choice, one set of actions is going to produce a success versus a failure. So, in the same way, whenever students are analyzing cases, they have to make a call on one direction versus another direction, and either direction could be right. Either direction, either recommendation could be right, or several different types of recommendations could be right. But as the student, you have to make a call, and that can be difficult, right? Again, students are responsible for their own learning, success, and failure. Again, you get out of it what you put into it. So the more you put into it, the more success you're going to get out of learning from the case and learning from your analyses of what's happening in the case. And because of that, right, it's hard work. And oftentimes, right, we as humans, we don't like super difficult hard work, but the case method and conducting case analyses and building and crafting case reports, it's not easy. It's going to be hard work. And so that can be a disadvantage, right? Because we don't want to have super hard work all the time. We want to have a mix of hard work, moderate work, easier work. But the case method is definitely a hard working, it's needed that you work hard to be able to be successful. Okay. So what is a case? A case is going to be a description of a management situation. Okay. So as I mentioned, it's reality based. It's something that's happened in the past, and it's experiential, right? It's something that is an experience of a company, and it describes what has happened per a sole focus, whether it be like in my class, we have a case about McDonald's, for example. And that case, it's a case regarding a situation that management of McDonald's is facing and that students must analyze and provide recommendations for. It offers that legitimate learning vehicle because it is something that actually did happen and it's based in reality. And many times, these cases, it takes hundreds of hours collecting information not only on the corporation like McDonald's, the focal corporation, but also about other corporations. So, for example, the McDonald's case that we talk about in class, it has information on Wendy's, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, Panera, all these other restaurants. So it's a lot of information that the whoever's compiling and building up this case has to do to make available to students, right? So they also have to reduce and present the essential facts, and they have to develop the case around the most substantive issues for managers that they're facing at the current time. Okay, that way students have all the essential information to be able to analyze effectively the case. Okay, so it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work for whoever writes the case for students to then analyze that case. Okay, so as students, how do we prepare for the case? And this is from a general perspective. It could be helpful for students who are in other classes, not just mine. So how do you prepare for a case? Well, first, what I always suggest is you skim the case for all the major issues, and you can use a highlighter, or if you're on the online version, you can highlight the text on the PDF, and that works great too. You can always do that, and you skim it and highlight those major issues that you're able to identify. Then, after you've identified those major issues, you can go back and read the case very carefully and identify by highlighting or making a note of all the important information that you find in the case. Not everything's going to be super important, right? Some things may be more important than others. And from there, from all the important information that you take note of, you're going to identify the most substantive issues present for the management team to understand and analyze. Okay. Typically, I provide analysis questions for my students, but there might be some analysis questions that you have to think about whenever you're trying to determine what actions should be taken. Okay, so sometimes these might be questions that pop up whenever you're looking over your notes, looking over that important information and substantive issues that you're thinking about what is the most important information in terms of what actions could be taken. Then you're going to answer those analysis questions. Like I said, in my class, I provide those questions and you use the data that's available to make a case, to make a clear and well-informed assumption about any missing information. Okay. And from there, you have to choose a course of action and explicitly consider and reject plausible alternative courses of action. And this is key for any strategic decision making, right? I have a lecture on what makes a decision strategic. And specifically, you have to choose from alternative competing choices, right? That's what makes a decision strategic. You have lots of alternative decisions in front of you. There's many paths that you could choose. However, you have to make a call. And in the same way, for these cases, much of your recommendations are going to require you to make a call. You can't be everything to everyone, so you have to make a feasible recommendation that makes sense and is plausible for you to do as a company. Okay? And then from there, once you've made your recommendation, you have to develop a plan of how you're going to implement that recommendation. Okay. And we do this by detailing what is it going to take to actually implement that course of action that you're recommending. So this is how to prepare for a case start to finish, because in almost all cases, I ask questions related to asking students to provide a clear-cut recommendation of how they should move in one direction or another, or what direction they should take in general. Okay. So the case analysis format for this course, how you're going to conduct case analyses, is it's going to be a question and answer format. And so whenever you look at the questions that I provide, sometimes there's multiple questions within a question. So make sure you answer all parts of the question, and make sure whenever you're thinking about a question in particular, what is going to give me the most detailed and developed response that's going to answer the question in full. Okay. And you should organize your answers into different sections, into different parts. How do you do this? Well, you do that with headings and subheadings. In my class, whenever we're doing this in person, I stress that headings and subheadings are your friend. Okay. And in any professional writing, headings and subheadings are going to be your friend because it helps the reader and guides the reader through the document. Okay. You should also be specific as well as clear and concise. It's critical that you're specific, clear, and concise, because you don't want to have a bunch of fluff. You don't want to have a bunch of things that the reader does not really care about. A business report and a professional business report requires you to be specific, clear, and concise. Okay? From this, whenever you conduct your case analysis and you're providing your write-up of your analysis, you're going to use your knowledge about marketing content. So this could come from the chapter material, it could come from the lecture material, or it could come from past experience, understanding different types of marketing knowledge and content, right? However, what I encourage you to do is think about what you have learned so far in the course, okay? And what you have learned from the chapter content, the lecture content, or any other previous videos that I've made and provided to you. You're also going to use conceptual frameworks. Some of those I'm going to be discussing in this lecture over the next couple of slides. And those would be like a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as well as Porter's 5 forces. Okay. You're also going to need, right? The case has a lot of information. I said in the previous slides that it takes hundreds of hours to compile all this information that's presented in the case. And somebody does this, right? An instructor, a professor does that to build up these cases, right? So you're going to need to use the information from the case to justify your arguments in your case report. Okay? So you'll need to read the case, as I mentioned, how to prepare for a case analysis. You're going to need to read the case and come prepared to class with notes, okay, on how you should best answer the questions that I provide to you. And after that, you're going to have time assigned to you that you can put together the answers as a team. So all of my students are assigned or they sign up for a team for this class. And if you prepare individually and then come together as a team to work and put together your answers, and then you have plenty of time after class to be able to refine your answers to these questions, you're going to be successful. Okay. The case will then be discussed in class, time permitting, for about 30 to 40 minutes. Sometimes this could be less, sometimes this could be more. It all depends on how much time we have in class to discuss the case. Okay. And from there, I'll be able to give you some guidance on how to proceed to answer certain questions. Okay. So I mentioned that there's two different types of frameworks that you're going to be primarily using and trying to analyze these cases. SWOT is going to be one of the most tried and true frameworks that we use for this class. And there's two reasons for that. It has origins in business policy at Harvard Business School, but it's one of the most widely used tools for analyzing strategy and marketing strategy and understanding business. Okay. So being able to understand your business effectively, you would conduct a SWOT analysis. That is because you're going to assess your strengths, what that's internal and what you do well. You're going to look at your weaknesses, that's internal, and what you may struggle with, it's harmful to your business. You're also going to look at external opportunities. So these are things that are not controllable, right? Thinking about the external that I talked about earlier that managers analyze. This is not controllable by the company, okay? So you'll look at opportunities that are present in the external environment, as well as threats that might be harmful to your organization, but are uncontrollable by you and your company. Okay, so here's some example of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of areas in which you might want to consider whenever you're assessing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats through the case analyses, as well as whenever you're working on your strategic marketing plan, because that's an additional assignment that we go through in this course, right? So we have our strengths, right? Things your company does well, qualities that separate you from your competitors. You have your weaknesses, things that your company lacks, things your competitors do better than you. You have your opportunities. These could be demographic changes, okay? Changes in legislation, changes in local, national, or international events that are going to be something you as a company could capitalize on, but it could also be beneficial to anyone in your industry. So things that are positive, for example, if we're talking about the airline industry, we could say consumer demand for air travel is up 15% over the past year, right? That is an example of a trend that's happening among consumers. Now, threats are also external, right? So many of the same things I talked about for opportunities also apply in the threat section. However, it's going to be negative. It's harmful, right? So it could be, for example, other companies are developing more sophisticated technology. It could be that there's a global pandemic like we experienced with COVID-19, that it not only affects you, but also affects the entire industry as a whole. Okay, so that's our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is available to you in Canvas as a PDF version for you to be able to see these slides. We also have Porter's Five Forces. Porter's Five Forces is one of the most widely used tools to be able to analyze the industry. These are competitive forces in an industry. As it might indicate, there are 5 competitive forces, and those competitive forces are analyzed and assessed how strong those forces are. So they're going to be weak, moderate, or strong as a force. And there's 5 forces. So we have rivalry among existing competitors. Is rivalry weak, moderate, or strong? Okay. Is the threat of new entrants weak, moderate, or strong? Is the bargaining of power of buyers weak, moderate, or strong? Is the threat of substitute products weak, moderate, or strong? And is the bargaining power of suppliers weak, moderate, or strong? Do suppliers have a lot of bargaining power? Do buyers have a lot of bargaining power, or they don't have much bargaining power at all? If they don't have much bargaining power, it's going to be weak, right? If they have a lot of bargaining power, they have room to negotiate with the companies, then it's going to be strong, right? So for each of these areas, you would assess how weak or strong the competitive force is. Okay. And whenever we think about this, Porter's five forces, we don't do this for every case, but we do use this as a tool in some cases. And the better you get at using this tool to analyze the industry, the better you're going to get at understanding how industries work and how you can better understand what is going on in an industry and how weak or strong different forces, different competitive forces, impact your ability to operate as a business in that industry. Okay. So today I talked to you about how to conduct a case analysis. I described what a case is and why case analysis can be an important vehicle for us as students to learn how to actually deal with different problems that businesses have faced in the past. If you'd like to learn more about case analyses or marketing strategy, market research, consumer behavior, feel free to give my YouTube channel a subscribe, like this video, and I appreciate you watching. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.